Hey 70s rock and roll fans, let's take a trip back to the golden age of hard rock, a time when music had soul, guitars were loud, and drummers didn't need a computer to keep time. This list is the best of the best. Do you agree or disagree? Listen in and tell us in the comments if we hit the mark or you think we don't even know what we're talking about. Let's get the party started, so crank up the volume. Shout It Out Loud by Kiss kicked off 1976 with a bang. This track should have been plastered all over the airwaves. Kiss brought the theatrics in the tunes, providing that rock isn't just about the music, it's a full sensory experience. Here's a fun fact. The members of Kiss wore their iconic makeup everywhere, even to the grocery store. Imagine picking out milk next to a guy in full demon makeup. That's commitment to the craft, folks. Not like today's pop stars who can barely keep their wigs on for a 3-minute TikTok. Next up, we've got Lady Evil by Black Sabbath from 1978. This track flew under the radar, overshadowed by some of their earlier hits. But make no mistake, it's a powerhouse of a song that deserved way more recognition. It's got all the hallmarks of classic Sabbath, haunting lyrics, killer riffs, and Ozzy's unmistakable vocals. Did you know that during the recording of the album Heaven and Hell, which features Lady Evil, the band was so broke they had to borrow equipment? That's right, one of the biggest bands in the world was scraping by. Talk about dedication to the craft. You won't see that kind of struggle from today's auto-tuned pop princesses. The Runaways crashed onto the scene in 1976 with Cherry Bomb. This all-female group was a breath of fresh air in the male-dominated rock world. They should have been hailed as pioneers, but instead, they were often dismissed as a novelty act. Their raw energy and rebellious spirit embodied everything great about 70s rock. Hey, speaking of rebellious spirit, we want to hear from you. What memories did these songs bring back? Share your stories in the comments below. And let's show these young whippersnappers what real music fans look like. Uriah Heap's Easy Livin' from 1972 is next on our list. This track should have been the soundtrack to every 70s movie, TV show, and probably a few divorce proceedings. Here's a tidbit for you. Uriah Heap was named after a Charles Dickens character. How's that for literary cred? I bet half of today's artists can't even spell Dickens, let alone read him. Do You Feel Like We Do by Peter Frampton, released in 1973, is a journey of a song. At over 14 minutes long, it's practically a short film. This track showcases Frampton's incredible guitar work and his innovative use of the talkbox. It should have been mandatory listening in every high school music class. Fun fact, the talkbox Frampton used was actually given to him by none other than George Harrison. Now that's a hand-me-down worth bragging about. These days, the closest thing to a talkbox is probably some overpriced app that makes you sound like a robot. Blue Oyster Cult gave us The Reaper in 1976, a song that's been misunderstood almost as much as it's been played. It should have been recognized for its complex themes and technical proficiency, but instead, it became known as that cowbell song thanks to a certain TV sketch. Here's something you might not know. The song isn't actually about suicide as many people think. It's about eternal love and the inevitability of death. Deep stuff. Saxon's Wheels of Steel rolled onto the scene in 1979, marking the transition from 70s hard rock to what would become the new wave of British heavy metal. Did you know that Saxon's original name was Son of a Bitch? They had to change it because radio stations refused to say it on air. Can you imagine the fits these stations would have with some of today's explicit lyrics? They'd probably spontaneously combust. Alright rockers, we've been headbanging through some serious classics here. What's been your favorite so far? Got any stories about blasting these tunes and giving your parents a heart attack? Share them in the comments. Let's show these modern music fans what real rebellion looks like. Aerosmith's Toys in the Attic hit the shelves in 1975, and it should have been the wake-up call America needed. This title track is a blistering, high-energy romp that showcases everything great about Aerosmith: Steven Tyler's unique vocals, Joe Perry's killer riffs, and a rhythm section tighter than your grandpa's wallet. Here's a juicy bit of trivia. The phrase "toys in the attic" is slang for insanity. Fitting, considering the wild ride Aerosmith was on at that time. These days, the craziest thing most bands do is order their lattes with extra foam. Mississippi Queen by Mountain crashed onto the scene in 1970, setting the tone for the decade of rock to come.
Mississippi Queen!
Its raw, bluesy sound and Leslie West's growling vocals are a masterclass in hard rock. Fun fact, the cowbell in Mississippi Queen wasn't planned. The producer brought it in at the last minute and told the drummer to play it like your life depends on it. Alice Cooper's Elected from 1972 is a satirical masterpiece that should have been played at every political rally since. Its blend of hard rock and political commentary was ahead of its time, proving that rock could be both entertaining and thought-provoking. Here's something you might not know. Elected was released as a single just before the 1972 U.S. presidential election. Alice Cooper even launched a mock campaign to coincide with the song's release. Now that's what I call a rock and roll publicity stunt. The Scorpions' Rock You Like a Hurricane blew in at the tail end of the 1970s, released in 1979.
Rock you like a hurricane!
Its combination of hard-hitting riffs and catchy melodies is practically a blueprint for great rock music. This song was born in an unlikely place, a noisy bunker in Hanover, Germany, that the Scorpions rented as a cheap rehearsal space. The bunker was near a busy street, and passing streetcars would cause interference with their equipment, creating a buzzing noise, surprisingly inspiring the song's iconic guitar riff. All right, fellow rockers, we're nearing the home stretch, but don't you dare tune out. What's been the biggest surprise for you so far? Let us know in the comments. Your opinion matters, unless you prefer modern pop, in which case we might need to have a serious talk. Golden Earrings' Radar Love from 1973 is the ultimate driving song. It should have been issued with every driver's license.
Radar love.
The pulsing rhythm and driving guitar perfectly captured the feeling of a late-night road trip. Here's a tidbit for you. Radar Love was written in just one day. The band was jamming, and the song just came together naturally. Now that's how real music is made, folks. Not pieced together from samples in some fancy computer program. Nazareth gave us Hair of the Dog in 1975. With its gritty vocals and that iconic talkbox riff, it's a perfect example of the raw energy that defined 70s hard rock. This song features one of rock's most recognizable uses of the talkbox effect, but interestingly, it wasn't guitarist Manny Charlton who played that part. The famous talkbox riff was actually performed by the band's sound engineer because the band had tried to use the talkbox but couldn't quite nail the sound they wanted. We're an American Band by Grand Funk Railroad hit the airwaves in 1973. This track is a celebration of rock and roll excess and the touring lifestyle, delivered with a swagger that's sorely missing from today's music scene. Did you know that this was Grand Funk Railroad's first song to feature drummer Don Brewer on lead vocals? Talk about a grand entrance. These days, most drummers are hidden behind a plexiglass screen. Led Zeppelin's Black Dog from 1971 is a masterclass in rock composition. The call and response structure between Robert Plant's vocals and Jimmy Page's guitar is nothing short of genius. The title, Black Dog, has nothing to do with the song's lyrics or theme. It was actually named after a nameless black Labrador retriever that wandered around the Headley Grange studio while the band was recording. We're in the final stretch of our journey through the best of 70s hard rock, but before we wrap up, we want to hear from you one last time. Which of these tracks takes you right back to the good old days? Any concerts or memories tied to these songs that you'll never forget? Share your stories in the comments, and let's keep the spirit of 70s rock alive. Ted Nugent's Cat Scratch Fever clawed its way onto the scene in 1977. This track should have been prescribed as a cure for boredom. Here's something you might not know. Nugent claims he wrote Cat Scratch Fever in just 5 minutes. Now that's what I call efficiency. Styx released Renegade in 1978. The song's dramatic build-up and explosive chorus capture the tension and excitement of being on the run from the law. Fun fact, Renegade was written by Tommy Shaw while the band was on tour, inspired by a western he'd watched on TV. Imagine writing a classic rock song based on a cheesy western. Jethro Tull's Aqualung from 1971 isn't just a song, it's a gritty character study set to music. Here's a tidbit that'll blow your mind. Aqualung was almost never recorded. The band was broke and on the verge of splitting up when they got the chance to record at Island Records' new studio. They were basically guinea pigs testing the equipment. Talking about pressure, but instead of cracking, they created a timeless classic. Last but certainly not least, we've got Heart's Barracuda from 1977.
Ooh, Barracuda!
This track should have been the wake-up call the music industry needed to take women in rock seriously. Ann Wilson's powerful vocals and Nancy Wilson's driving guitar work prove that rock isn't just a man's game. Did you know that Barracuda was written as an angry response to a sexist promoter who spread a nasty rumor about the Wilson sisters? That's the kind of righteous anger that fuels great rock music. And there you have it, folks. A journey through the top 20 hard rock songs of the 1970s. These songs represent an era when music was real, raw, and revolutionary. Remember, rock and roll isn't just music. It's a way of life. So keep coming back because there's more of this to come.